Hello and welcome to the Hobby Breakfast Show. I'm the Mayor. I'm joined today by OT. Say hello.
Hello. And
Onod, who's on his way back from the pub.
Hello.
His brilliant mic quality. He may or may not be talking very much, but he's mainly here to listen on how things went. So today I'm going to be going through the recent GBHL90 events in Worcester, which was called Keep It Secret, Keep It Safe. And I fucking won it. I fucking won the event. So we're going to go through... Woo! I know, applauds to me. All the pats on the back, please. I really feel like the stars aligned for this one, and I'll tell you all why, but we're basically going to be going through each game. I took as many pictures as I can. As you'll notice, as each game goes on, there's less and less pictures because I begin to see that actually I'm in with a chance of winning and that I should probably be concentrating and not taking pictures. The time and model factor wasn't actually an issue for most of the games. First, a little bit about the format. It was a 600 points tournament. The usual restrictions applied. The main difference with this one is that for every game, the TO Lian, who did an amazing job as always, rolled for 3 random scenarios from the matched play guide. I believe they had to be from different pools at least, but I'm not 100% sure. And then each player at the beginning of the game rolled off, and the loser had to veto one of those 3 scenarios. Then the other player vetoed one of the 2 remaining scenarios, which leaves 1 scenario which was then played. So every table could have been playing one of 3 different scenarios each round. And because Goblin Town are obviously susceptible to losing to certain scenarios, like, I don't know, the ones where you kill stuff and wounds matter essentially, it just meant that as Goblin Town, I can veto those and force my opponent to hopefully choose between 2 more objective or mobility-based scenarios. And that's pretty much what I did. I didn't have to play against any particularly bad matchups, and everything went pretty well. So I'd better go through the 600 point list that I used at the tournament. Wanted to give a shout out to Tom from Atomic Cards. I watched one of his videos, it must have been about 10 times over the course of the past year or so, on 500/700 point Goblin Town list. He came 2nd place with Goblin Town at tournaments, and I just found his video really interesting. He took Goblin Town to a 500 point tournament essentially, and then you could increase the points level, I believe, to 700, and you had to add something in. So he allied in a Bat Swarm with Spider Queen. So I've been trying out the Goblin Town Spider Queen Bat Swarm combination, and I found it really interesting at certain points levels. I think for me 600 points is too low for Spider Queen. I think that's fair. I think 700, 800 is where potentially I'd put it in, probably more like 800. I just think the Spider Queen is just too many goblins worth of points to justify it at such a low points level, and also because of the veto system for the tournament, just having a ton of models is going to be way more useful. So the list itself, we've got the Goblin King with 23 warriors and Golem in his warband. Grinner has 12 warriors, Captain with 12 warriors, Scribe with 3, and a Mercenary Captain with 12. I'm fortunate enough to have enough Wizzy with goblins for these to all be axes and picks. And I also have a lot of spare goblins. I think I've got like 150 goblins-ish, probably. And obviously the Scribe's going to bring on some more, so I've got more with picks for that. And I believe I'm correct in saying that you can also bring goblins with 2-handed weapons on, so I've got 6 to 10 of those as well. And yeah, I think the list is really solid for the points level, really good for Goblin Town. Has a lot of models, 68 models, so versus a lot of other lists I'm going to be outnumbering twice, in some case potentially 3 times against very elite armies, and having numbers has always just been very forgiving. Hero wise, we've obviously got the Goblin King, who's extremely good, very much a linchpin for the army. We've obviously got Golem, who combos very nicely with the Goblin King. and they can jump on an enemy hero. For those of you that don't know, essentially, Gollum can put the ring on. He can go into combat with someone, and if he's got the ring, he can go through troops. He can combo with the king against pretty much anyone in the game, because Gollum will be halving that person's fight value. Even if you struck up to 10, he'd be halving that to 5, and the Goblin King's fight value is 6. So between them, they've taken down innumerable Bjorning bears. They can essentially combo against, like I said, pretty much anything in the game that's not Smaug or something, and they're just an excellent combination. The only annoying thing is, obviously, sometimes your opponent will have the ring instead, because Gollum is lowest on the priority list, as it were. We've got Grinner, who's essential for getting Goblin King out of sticky situations, and also has 3 might, which is nice. We've got a Goblin Captain, who is going to be used for marching and move-offs, and hopefully staying power in the late game with courage tests, although he's not great at courage. Gollum's actually the best in the army with courage 4. Then we've got the Goblin Scribe, who in some scenarios will do absolutely nothing, because every goblin he brings on won't make it to combat, or he'll win you the game. Always worth taking, in my opinion. He's just extra goblins. The only downside is they obviously don't contribute towards breakpoints. And then we've got the Mercenary Captain. Absolutely brilliant, being able to essentially deploy anywhere. It takes one of the biggest weaknesses of goblins away, that being their relatively slow movement. With the Scribe comboing with the mercenaries, you can put models where you need them. They're also D4, which is nice against elf bows and any strength 3 army, really. So overall, it was a strong list, I felt, going in, and I've played this list, or similar lists, with Goblin Town for the past 8 to 12 months. It's pretty much all I've been playing. I feel super confident with it. So without further ado, we'll go into the games. Game 1, the 3 scenarios are Seize the Prize, Contest of Champions, and Domination. So in this case, obviously Contest of Champions, I'm playing against Riders of Eomer with Gandalf, so I immediately vetoed Contest of Champions, no thank you. He vetoed Domination, which left Seize the Prize, which I think was the right call for him. Seize the Prize, if he picks it up, he can just run away. Having Expert Ride is really helpful. So, Seize the Prize, random board edges. I lost priority in the first turn, which meant he had to go first. So all of his Maelstrom stuff happens, and essentially, as you can see in the corner on the top right there, he rolled a 2 for Gandalf, and I chose to bring Gandalf on in the corner, knowing that his force being in a corner gives me the best chance of surrounding him, and also thinking maybe he'll want to keep his force together, in which case I need to trap him in. And because of that building in the corner, that was my best chance of creating a full surround. He then rolled a 6 for Eomer and decided to bring him on immediately next to Gandalf's warband, and I was thinking, bloody brilliant. I rolled for the Scribe. He came on the opposite side of the board, and immediately rolled a double 6 for his courage test, and a 5 for the D3 goblins coming in. So maximum number of goblins came in, which was, I don't know, it's a lot of goblins. And as you can see, I rolled pretty well for all my guys. I think I had to spend a couple might for the Goblin King to come on in the right place. And my captain came on the right, just blocking that channel. I've got my mercenaries in reserve, and Grinner had not arrived turn 1. He rolled a 1, which I was fine with, because it meant I could put him wherever he was needed. My strategy here is going to be to bring on goblins elsewhere on the board to activate the other objectives. Turn 2, again, I rolled insanely well with the Scribe, rolling a 10 for his courage and a 6 for the D3. So I had 6 two-handed goblins coming on, as you can see here. And he's just barreled towards one side. I was kind of expecting him to take the channel here on the left and try and break out that way. But actually he decided to try and break through this relatively thin 2 lines of goblins. But that slowly became more and more goblins, as you can see in this image. My mercenaries arrived.
Holy crap.
And Grinner came in on the right. So at this point I'm thinking, well, maybe he's going to try and turn around. But it's way too late. The net has been closed. Annoyingly, I actually rolled to unearth this objective on top here and rolled a 6. So the objective was pretty close to him, but essentially I just sat a goblin up here for the whole game. And slowly his forces just kind of melted away. Earmare was trying to break out, but no. So here's the 6 that I rolled for this objective. He sent some of his riders out to meet the Goblin King's forces. But I mean, all of these I've got, like, there's a 6-on-1, a 4-on-1, some goblins over here that actually won some of their combat. Goblin King combats to get a bit closer. He did dismount a guy to try and climb the wall, but I just put a goblin in front. He also rolled a 1 for his climb test, so unfortunately he just fell on his butt at the bottom, which is pretty unfortunate. So you can see in the close-up there. This is a little bit later on in the game. I've started to just mop up some of the normal guys. I'm just making it impossible for him to break out over here, making sure that I've got multiple layers of guys so that Earmare can't do any combats. And it's at this point that I have to reveal the secret missions for this tournament. So we were given 12 secret missions. I think they're the same as the ones in the match play guide. But you pick 3 of them, you put them face down, and your opponent picks one of them randomly, and then you have to try and achieve that through the game. Mine for this one was to kill the highest point enemy hero, and that of course was Gandalf. I think I had seven guys on him at this point, including 2 two-handers, and it was my opponent's choice whether he wanted to do the banner first or Gandalf. If he chose Gandalf, then he was going to be trapped. If he chose the banner and I killed the banner, then obviously Gandalf won't have a banner reroll. As it is, Gandalf has 2 attacks, so 2 to 3 attacks, he chose to go for that. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough for Gandalf to win the combat because he didn't have any might left, and he was trapped, and I did like 8 wounds to him or something ridiculous. So Gandalf died, which was very unfortunate. That just left the banner and a couple of stragglers and Earmare, and eventually I'd killed every model in his army apart from this one guy who failed to climb the wall. I trapped Earmare, threw the Goblin King on him. Earmare didn't have any might, so there was really very little my opponent could do. I think the game was just kind of won and lost in deployment, as a lot of games are, and there really wasn't very much to be done. Nicely though, I ended the game. So this is my dead pile here, and this is what was left on the board. And I did the maths, and essentially I ended the game with 1 more model than I started, which brought me up to 69. So it was a perfect game.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there was very little that could have been done. Yeah. I can just feel you being like, fucking Goblin Town and their numbers.
I think yeah, like, I mean, I'm on this high right now of just like, I think high model armies are good, and like, yeah, maybe this is an exaggerated scenario because AMS isn't super competitive, and like you got him balled up really well on deployment, but yeah, it does just feel like I don't really know if your opponent, sounds like your opponent couldn't really have done a lot once deployment was done.
Yeah, I mean his army is high mobility, yeah, and he couldn't use that.
Yeah.
He didn't have much might for move offs, and as soon as he deployed in the corner, it was pretty much game over.
Yeah.
Because I got to deploy Gandalf, I think maybe he didn't think that I'd be able to pull out something as crafty as I did. So that was the first game, which was a 10-1 victory. Then the second game, oh, this was a funny little thing that happened during my observation of the Ruffians versus Shire game. So it was the two legions, which was super cool, and they were playing each other to game 1. I don't know whether it was fixed, whether they actually randomly were set to play each other, but it was very cool to watch. I don't think they got that many turns in, but it was quite entertaining. As I viewed, Worm here was trying to... He's just finished killing Lobelia here, and it's his turn to move, and he was going to move down the rock, and before doing that, they agreed that actually Worm is half the height of this, so if he fails, he would take full damage.
Yep.
And it's only because the model is lying down,
Mm-hmm.
that it's the height thing. Rolls a 1 for his climb test, makes his opponent roll to wound, rolls a 6. He's got 1 wound, no fate, so he just dies.
A very treacherous slope.
You hate to see it. Took some pictures of the best painted evil armies. This one was really nice. Riches. OT, you might remember when we played against the Isengard Troll at Cardiff.
Yep.
That was this fella.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And he won best painted, I believe.
Over Sebastian.
No, Sebastian entered in the good army. So this is all evil armies.
Okay.
And then you've got this one as well. I think it was very close between these two, as you might imagine. The display board probably helped, but I mean, they've got really nice bases and nice highlights and stuff. So
it's always the extra little bits that really make a difference in the paint. At that level of painting, like, I mean, I can barely tell the difference in some of the really well painted ones, to be fair. So yeah,
no, they're really nice. These were really interesting. This army list alone is like pretty cool. Mouth of Sauron, Witch King, Morgonites, Banner.
Yeah.
They weren't insanely well painted, but I mean the theme alone and like the base is really nice and very well done. So this was a very, very interesting game. You might be wondering where the rest of my opponent's army is.
Where's the rest of your opponent's army?
Oh well, I'm glad you asked that because he's hiding in the water somewhere. I'm playing against the Watcher here. So game 2.
There was a water source. Is there?
So before the game, we defined the terrain. We agreed forests, obviously, because some of the hidden mission things, which are what these cards are for, were things like control a forest or control a ruin. So we had to define the ruin as, you know, the base, for example, or the terrain piece. And while we were doing that, and while he was explaining to me what the Watcher does, the Watcher has a brutal power attack where he can drag someone under the water if he's in shallow water and kind of disappear off the board so he can redeploy. And I was like, that sounds pretty cool. And he jokingly said, but there's no shallow water unless we're counting those blue areas. And I was like, yeah, let's fucking do it. Like, that sounds brilliant. Like, we hadn't chosen deployment zones yet, so I was still in with a chance of making it not easy for him to jump on my guys, but I just thought it was cool. So I was like, yeah, let's use the blue. So I was playing against Jordan from Any Heroics. Really, really nice guy. The missions for it, so he's got this guy, whatever he's called. The bloody... the goblin guy on the rock.
Is he more your goblin guy with the golden crown?
Yeah, golden crown guy. Yeah, so that's going to be really useful for him because all his guys will be higher fight than me. He's got a captain, he's got 2 bat swarms, some prowlers, and then he's got the Watcher. So for those of you who don't know, at the beginning of every turn, I think after priority, or maybe it's before, I can't remember, he can basically choose to bring the Watcher in. He can displace models. The Watcher ignores a lot of things about the game. He can just, like, he rolls d6 and he can drag, or he can shoot his tentacle at that many people, and if he doesn't wound them, or if he wounds them and they don't die or something, he can drag them into base contact. And what you can do is you can take a bat swarm, bring it around somewhere, then you can deploy the Watcher, and then you can whip the Goblin King, for example. There's no in the ways or anything like that, it just hits them, and then wound him, or don't wound him, I can't remember how it works, but basically it will drag him to the nearest point on the Watcher's base. And all you do is you put a cav base, let's say behind this building here, put the bat swarm next to it and the Watcher, and you make it very clear that when the Goblin King moves to the nearest point, that'll be the nearest point, and he'll be trapped.
Nice.
And then you've got the bat swarm making his fight value half, and the Watcher just beating shit. So that I was very wary of that, and also I don't know very much about the Watcher, so I was pretty scared of it, to be honest.
Okay.
The scenario choices were reconnoiter. I mean, let me put it this way: we didn't have to roll to see who vetoed first because we knew what we were both going to veto. So reconnoiter, retrieval, and assassination. Okay. I'm not going to allow him to do assassination because he can just make the Watcher the assassin and like my little shitty captain the target and just kill him very easily.
Yep.
The other option is reconnoiter, which he's obviously going to veto because I've got mercenaries and a shit ton of goblins.
Yep.
So that leaves us with retrieval, which is what we played. He picked the corner. The objective's right behind this forest on his side, and he just left it completely alone, which I thought was very strange. And then I've got mine here. I deployed a bit forward and a bit back. Wasn't really sure what to do. The whole time I was like, what am I doing? I don't know. Because I didn't know where the Watcher would come up, what his strategy was going to be. But I knew that if I kept Grinner near the king, if he did somehow snare the king, maybe I can use Grinner's swap with me.
Swap with me.
Yeah. I didn't end up using it in this game, but you'll see why. So still got the mercenaries to come in. I moved up. I moved this terrain piece because it kept falling over. The scribe moved up. I kept it way out of the way because, if he went for it with the Watcher, then the Watcher would be out of the way. I decided to move everything up because even if he deployed his Watcher back here on its own, that's fine. He can take that because I've now got his objective. As you can see, lots of goblins came in. You can see some normal goblins and all the mercenaries, and at this point I'm fairly sure I'm going to have his objective, so I don't care if he takes this one. I just need to surge forward and kill stuff. He decided to deploy the Watcher up here. What's this roll for? I've got no idea. Obviously I've rolled a double 6 or something, and that's hugely important.
That's a good thing.
Yes, I've rolled 6s, and that means good things are happening for me. It might be blubbery mass saves, I'm not really sure. Or it could be that the scribes just brought on a shit ton of people. So, at this point you can see the Watcher's dragged in my captain and Grinner. And what you can't see off screen is that he sent a bat swarm around the side of the table. And of course, bat swarms are infantry and can pick up light objects. So if the bat swarm gets to my objective, I'm royally screwed. Because they're definitely going to make it back to his own table edge, whereas I'm not going to make it. So I start sending the Goblin King back. I fortunately win a move off because he tried to move so that he could transfix the Goblin King with his Shaman and stop him moving back. But he failed, so the Goblin King moved back. He sent like 3 guys this way to their death pretty much. As you can see, I definitely overcommitted on the Goblin front on this side. Literally, I shouldn't have sent the mercenaries over here. I should have put the mercenaries on this terrain piece and tried to come in behind the Goblin ranks. So my forces started to be thinned. Goblin King made it back to here. Bat Swarm's coming around. Bat Swarm's now targeting the Goblin Scribe, just for lols at this point, I think. Grinner actually struck up and beat the Watcher in combat for 1 turn, and then he sent the Bat Swarm in and thought that's enough of that. So, as you can see from this picture, very much lost the battle in the middle of the board. That's my dead pile on the right. I am incredibly broken at this point, but the round has ended. And I got my secret objective, which was holding a city terrain piece, which was this. Goblin King's still sitting on the objective. I've got the objective over here, so I've got 3 points for that. But he's got 3 points for breaking me and not being broken. I think he was 1 off breaking.
Okay.
So, unfortunately for me, that led to a draw. However, as overall for the tournament, that's actually what led me to win the tournament. So at the time, I was quite frustrated that I'd not read properly, because I thought I had 6 points founding the objective, and it was only 3. So that was the end of game 2, 3-3 draw. And then we come on to game 4 against Ali King, who's like one of the best players in England, which was pretty terrifying. He's brought a suboptimal list. He likes bringing lists that like a bit weird but are surprisingly strong. As we know, Gondor's been doing quite well, and he's brought a king of man, or man, whatever he's called, a man king, a king man,
king of
men on horse with lance and shield. He's got a Knight of the White Tower, and he's got Earl the Young with six or seven guys and a guy with a banner. He's got some Fountain Court Guard, he's got some warriors with shields, he's got some archers at the back, some spearmen. So the 3 scenarios for this game were Lords of Battle, Breakthrough, and Seize the Prize. So I vetoed Lords of Battle, because obviously he vetoed Breakthrough, which left us with Seize the Prize. He's got obviously some mounted dudes, which is going to make it pretty easy for him to get to the objective. And sure enough, turn 1, he marches in, dismounts a guy, rolls a 2 though, big 2. So this is just me praying, essentially. I haven't moved my guys yet. Obviously, I marched with my captain here to get everyone up as fast as possible. Oh, this was nice. So the end of turn 1 here, in the shooting phase, his King of Men here, I rolled a 5 to hit with my Goblin King, mighted it to a 6, knowing that there was an in the way for this guy. So then rolled a 6 for the in the way, rolled a 1, hit the horse, 6, killed the horse, knocked him prone, got rid of his horse, so his lance is pretty useless now. So that was just a really nice little bonus. The second turn, I want to move off. That's the 1 that I rolled. So now the Goblin Captain here is going to move forward, and naturally I roll a 4 and I take the objective, and then everyone else moves in. So I won 3 50-50s, and if I'd lost any of those 50-50s, I probably would have lost the game, or it would have been extremely hard to come back. So I got extremely lucky in the beginning. All this cav wrapping around the side absolutely decimated me. All his guys, he's got like a nice concave going. I got loads of guys who are doing absolutely nothing, so my numbers aren't really counting for anything. The terrain was set up in his favour because I couldn't create any surrounds on the flanks. I'm needing 5s or 6s to kill pretty much all his guys. His Fountain Court Guard, I think, are defense 7, are they?
Yep.
So I need 6s. Yeah, he had shields everywhere on them, so I needed 6s on those naturally. He had a banner, higher fight, so it's really hard to win any fights. Meanwhile, this cav charge was absolutely devastating. The king was finding it hard to push through as well. So essentially, all I was doing was trying to protect my goblin while waiting for my mercenaries to arrive. This was the beginning and end of the first turn of combat. That is my dead pile from the first turn of combat. It was honestly so bad. You can see how thin my ranks are here. And at this point, all my mercenaries arrive. So he's now going to take all of his back rank, pretty much, and charge into the Goblin mercenaries, which meant the banner was away from the front line. And finally, I was picking apart the occasional guy. You can see pretty much all my guys over here are gone. This was the 6 I rolled for a heroic move off, where my Goblin King is going to move in, and this is the last turn of the game. My Goblin Captain here is going to move up, and I'm just going to fully surround him to the point where even a heroic combat isn't going to help my opponent. So I think there was a turn. Oh, this must have been 2 turns from the end. But my captain moved up, and then because I'm broken, my captain failed his courage test and ran away. But Gollum passed his, grabbed the objective, moved over here. I just positioned everything and tied everything up in combat such that he wouldn't be able to get to Gollum this turn. And then the game ended. So I forget, seize the prize. I can't remember if... oh, that's right. Both forces have to be 25%ed for it to end. So while I was 25%ed, my opponent obviously wasn't. And had the game continued, I think he probably would have mopped up my guys. Unless the Goblin King got really lucky and just went ham and killed a load of guys, I think I probably would have lost the game in the end. Hilariously, I just kept rolling for my scribe, and he kept rolling really well. I just brought goblins on behind him, because if I brought goblins on anywhere else, they would have just fleed because I was broken. Whereas this way, at least, they could have taken a stand fast from the scribe. So I was stopping the game from ending, which was probably not a good thing by not 25%ing myself. So yes, this was the end of the game. And this is my dead pile, which was easily the most amount of goblins that died in the whole tournament for me. This was what was left on the board, most of which were hiding with the scribe.
What was Earl the Young like?
The fact that he gave +1 attacks to the Sons of Earl was really strong. Even when they're not charging, even when they're not on their horse, they still get +1 attack.
Yeah.
Which is obviously really, really, really good. And him himself, just a really solid Rohan hero. Like, probably more solid than most. Up there with sort of Eomer.
His value for points is ridiculous for what you get.
Definitely.
Obviously, it does come with heavy limitations.
Yeah, I think those limitations are probably mainly army list building wise, though, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, as a model, he's incredible.
Yeah, and I think Ali did well to design a list that got around that, and he had, if his King of Men had kept his horse and his lance and his shield, he probably would have killed stuff a lot faster. You know, killing 4 goblins a turn by combating would have been really, really strong. But I lucked out, honestly. Okay. So this is the next day, game 4. I'd forgotten to take a picture until about halfway through the game. So this is the first picture of the game, unfortunately. I was obviously in the zone thinking, I'm 2 wins and a draw, I could still be in this. For this one, the options were Divide and Conquer, Clash by Moonlight, and Hold Ground. So he obviously vetoed Hold Ground. It was another guy from, what was the YouTube channel?
Any Heroics or Gollum's Gamers?
Any Heroics, yeah. Okay. Four out of the 6 people I played have YouTube channels.
Yep, that's the world we live in now. Yeah.
So he was really, really nice. Got a donut from him in the end. So props to you, my friend. Enjoyed that donut. So for this, I'm playing against Rivendell and Lothlorien. I didn't see what the list was before playing it, so I was speculating, but indeed he had Gil-galad and Galadriel with just a bunch of guys. I think he had 4 or 5 palace guards and a banner. No cav, just Gil-galad on horse. Like I said, he vetoed Hold Ground, and I vetoed Moonlight, which left us with Divide and Conquer. Basically, I gave him the choice between Divide and Conquer and Hold Ground, neither of which are good for him. Hold Ground's probably worse, so he went for Divide and Conquer. I think he knew it was going to be an uphill battle the whole time, but really wasn't sure what to do with deployment here, because I had to split up my forces 50-50 in the corners. So in the top left-hand corner, well, he deployed first, so he deployed Galadriel down here in the corner. I deployed the Scribe in the top left. He deployed Gil-galad in the top, which left me with my Captain, Grinner, and the Goblin King. If I separate the Goblin King and Grinner, they're probably not going to have the best time. So I put them together in the right-hand corner. And knowing that the Goblin Captain had March, I put him with the Scribe in the top left. And my plan was essentially to march with the Captain as fast as possible and just blitz towards Galadriel, because if I blitz towards Gil-galad, then they're just all going to die. Whereas if I blitz towards Galadriel and move the king and Grinner towards Galadriel, then I can try and take on one force at a time, knowing that he's probably going to want to squish my small force first. So I moved in as quickly as I could. Gil-galad obviously just blitzed across the table and started taking on guys. My mercenaries appeared on this piece of terrain. And for this one, the secret objective was, for me, having more models in the centre of the board. So I essentially just overpowered the elf warriors with numbers. His mission was something to do with keeping his most expensive leader alive with no wounds. So he was just protecting Galadriel, and I was very happy to just be like, look, I'm not going to attack Galadriel, you can do what you want with her. So Gil-galad blew a bunch of might to come and kill the scribe. I think the scribe only brought in 2 models this game or something. It was pretty low because I rolled so badly. Yeah, so he chose for my mercenaries not to come in quite early on, which actually left me with a lot more possibilities, which was good for me. He wasn't able to really challenge the middle of the board. He chose to come across the left here as opposed to just staying on the objective. Not really sure why. Probably because I would have just finished mopping up Galadriel's forces and then moved to the middle anyway. Here's another view. He did do a fairly good job at stalling a lot of my guys back here, but as you can see, I just started jumping over the wall to get around that. Kept moving forwards. Gil-galad, he pulled a really nice move here, actually. It was very cheeky. You can see here, Gil-galad has just... He's fighting 2 guys in this image, just here. And I'd put this support here, knowing that there isn't space for a cav base to come through here and attack the scribe because of the control zone. And the control zone on the other side means that he probably doesn't have enough movement to go all the way around the top and to the scribe. But what he did was he killed the goblin there, combated anyway, and then dismounted.
Oh, and there was enough move.
And there was enough movement. We used like the Guardians of Wiltshire little movement counters, and he did have enough movement. I thought it was very good. So he managed to get over to the scribe and kill him, which I wasn't surprised by. And I was kind of cool with this because now he's got his 2 biggest, scariest heroes away from any objectives. So I'm going to have this objective over here. I'm going to have the middle objective. I'm going to have... Well, I'm not going to have the one with the elves, but the middle objective is worth the most. So I don't really care about anything else. I'm just going to go for those 2 objectives. This is the last image I took, evidently. But essentially, I ended up moving forward and attacking these elves. I did get a good swap with me with Grinner because I lost a move off at some point, and Gil-galad went in on the king, and that was the only way he could get any more points this game. So rather than risk the king losing combat to Gil-galad, I just used swap with me, and nice. I think Grinner died. I'm not really sure, but either way, didn't lose that many guys, and the game ended with a 8-2 win. So the next game, now I'm like on the top 3 tables, and it's a bit scary. So in game 5, I was playing against Ashley from Golem's Gamers. He was really nice. It was probably the most challenging game to win, the most tactical, the most difficult. He really pushed me, and actually he didn't get anything wrong. There were quite a few things I was like, oh shit, I've messed that up, do you mind if I go back and sort that out? And he was always like, yeah, absolutely, far away. And I don't think he
combat.
I wasn't linking combats, no. So in the last turn of the game, I was very close to breaking but didn't realise it, and I sent loads of guys in on the Dragon Emperor, forgetting that he gets like 1,000,000 attacks if he wins, and could just kill them all. And because I had priority, I could have just sent one guy in. So I was like, oh, I probably shouldn't have done that. Do you mind if I just charge one guy in? And then I also forgot about my secret objective in the last turn. So,
Wow.
But the secret objective was just to have guys in a forest, and my guys were next to the forest and weren't doing anything else. So he was like, "Yeah, just do it," because the secret objectives didn't affect the tournament score, so they weren't actually relevant. I got the impression the Gollum Gamer guys weren't even looking at them.
What did they affect?
So there was a prize for whoever got the most secret objectives. So it was like separate to the tournament, as it were. So you could try and go for it.
Content with just trying to win the entire tournament. You also wanted to win the side thing as well.
Yeah, I wanted to win the side thing. Yeah, 100%.
Wow.
So I mean, I ended up getting 5 secret objectives, but I didn't actually win it. 3 people got 6, all 6. I know, it was so surprising. I couldn't believe it. I thought I was in with a chance with 5 because I knew that it would default to whoever got the most wins, and obviously that was me. So I was like, oh, maybe I've won that as well, but no. Anyway, I can't win them all. I also won the painting competition that I didn't even enter, so as you might have seen from the pictures. Sebastian couldn't attend the second day, but I entered his painting anyway, and he won. So
I bet you were real popular by the end of the tournament.
I was taking lots of pictures with Lian. So
he just hacked the fucking entire thing, didn't he?
Yeah, it was just all about me.
Yeah.
He's like Neo in the Matrix. He just realised that he can control it by the end.
Yeah. So
back to talking about meth.
So back to me. Yeah. This is my show here. We're just going to kick on off now. No. My opponent's list. He's got the Humble Dragon Emperor and Ratabi. He's got a bunch of guys. He's got 3 bows. He's got 2 or 3 cav and a Cataphracts war drum.
Pretty standard.
Standard stuff, really. The scenarios were Divide and Conquer. No, that's the previous game. The scenarios were... I've written these down.
Give it another go. You know,
I'll give it. It's very kind. Okay, here we go. Destroy the supplies, storm the camp, and to the death. Naturally, as always, I had to veto first, so I vetoed to the death because that involves killing things. He vetoed. So he had 2 choices here. Storm the camp. He could have played for a draw,
yes.
Knowing that I'd have to go to him, and that essentially it would be probably too difficult for me to break through, but that he wouldn't be able to make his way to me. He could eke out a draw. His other option was to do destroy the supplies and go for the win. So it was very sporting of him to go for destroy the supplies, because ultimately I think maybe he was also hoping to just go for the win himself, and didn't necessarily want to open it up for me to win as much as for him to win. I'm hoping that's the case, and that he wasn't just taking pity on the fact that he was going to play it for a draw. So destroy supplies. We got 3 objectives on each side. If you've got a model that ends their turn in base contact with it and hasn't done any magic or fighting or shooting, then you destroy that supply and you get 2 points. He is already ahead of me on points because he has the Dragon Emperor, because he's just that good. He counts as a banner for VPs, so he's got 2 points for that. I don't have a banner. So I'm 2 points down, so I need to destroy supplies. I've got a lot more models than him. I can come on anywhere because of the mercenaries, and he knows that. That's why he's spread out like he has. This field, fortunately, we decided was open ground for the game. Ooh. Because I was kind of posturing with the Goblin King here. I've got Goblin King, Grinner, and the Captain and Gollum all together. And if I go left, then I'm thinking the Dragon Emperor is going to go right. He's just going to steamroll, and he's going to take my 2 objectives on the right-hand side here, and it's going to be pretty much game over. I threw a guy with the Goblin King and hit Ratabi on a 6. Knocked her over, didn't wound her, but slowed her down. This picture, you can see, again, I moved the Goblin King to go either way. I wanted to make sure that if the Dragon Emperor went to the right, that I could counter him. If I committed too hard to the left, then he would have just swung round. But I won every priority this game. I think bar 1 at the very beginning. I also won every single move off. Literally every single one. It became a bit of a meme by the end. But since I won priority, in this case, it actually meant because my guys were in this field and the Dragon Emperor was quite close, but not close enough to charge, I had to either commit forward and take his counter charge, or move back and kind of reposition and see what he does. So there's a lot of cat and mouse. I decided to take the less risky option and move backwards. And because all my mercenaries had appeared on the top left here, behind this building, and like 7 more goblins came on from the left, you can see I've also got 3 goblins that came on from the right here to challenge this objective at the top. And he ended up swinging around to the top left. He took Ratabi up there, he took the Dragon Emperor up there, and he's got his War Drum up there currently. I've now kind of decided, well, if all his heroes are going up that side, then I'm going to send the King and Golem and Grinner and all that lot up there to try and challenge them and break through. Meanwhile, I'm going to use a lot of my kind of tertiary goblins, if you like, to just outnumber them, swarm over, see if I can get a few models through. You can see I've left some models behind, but I actually end up moving those, and that becomes a big issue for me. This is a lot further into the game because I was concentrating quite hard. You can see his Cataphract War Drum is just kind of chilling here. You're probably wondering why I've got no one on these objectives as well. Well, it's because I figured, oh, there's no way he's breaking through, so I might as well commit all my goblins forward. So the 2 goblins that were on this objective down here just moved forward to here. The 1 goblin that was down here committed to the right-hand side to help protect this objective. And this Cataphract with the War Drum has just moved 15 inches from about over here, because I brought 4 goblins on from this top side. I'm quite proud of this, actually, because it was a brilliant tactical play by me, if I may say so. Essentially, I put my goblins in two pairs, and I made it so that he could only charge, he only had the range to charge one or other of the front guys. So which would mean he wouldn't be able to physically prevent me from taking this objective. So instead, he banged the drum and he just shot 15 inches to here. I then obviously won priority, but it didn't matter because I couldn't reach him. And so in the following turn, he was able to use his War Drum again and just go all the way down pretty much to below here. I thought he was going to go for this blue objective, but he didn't. He went further down, and I end up bringing goblins on from this bottom edge because I just had to defend this objective. I've now taken the top right objective, so we're 2-all currently because he's got a banner. So it's 2-all. You can see where his Cataphract War Drum moved to here, and I've brought these goblins on. They're not going to be able to stop him. And you can see here as well, he's about to break through. I thought he was going to charge for this objective, but instead he went for the central one. I've also taken his central objective here now. So as it stands, he's definitely going to have this objective. So it's going to be 4-all. And he's massively challenging this objective back here. I'm really struggling to break through at the bottom here. He's got a guy standing on the objective and the Dragon Emperor next to it, who I was just feeding guys. I also failed really hard to kill Ratabi. I had her trapped for a couple turns. I think I failed to win one of the fights, and then the second fight I did like 2 wounds and he saved them on fate. So there was also a hero goblin in the top left here who just did not want to die. Like he killed 1 cav and then spent I think 3 turns fighting this cav before he died. So he really held up the cav, which was absolutely huge. That's the next game. So essentially his Cataphract ended up taking this objective, and yet again I obviously won priority, which meant I could tie up all his guys. And at that point we're actually drawing because he's got 1 of my objectives, I've got 2 of his, but he's got a banner and I don't. So it's 4-all. Fortunately, with only 2 combats left to do in the very last turn, I broke him, which meant I won. And I think I was 3 off breaking or something, which is why when I had like 5 guys fighting the Dragon Emperor and I was like, oh, actually, that's a bad idea. I just moved them off him. I think it was these 6 that ended up making their way, or these 5. So a really close game. It really did come down to the last, but the fact that I won every priority, like, really meant I lucked out, I think. The Dragon Emperor didn't do too much. I just fed him guys. Yeah, was really challenging. The fact that there were so many little skirmishes going on, and it ended up really mattering where I sent every single model. You know, if I just kept guys back, like, there was no reason to risk running forward, really. Like, I've got enough guys here. I should have just left them where they were, but, you know. So that leaves us on to the final game, which was against Sam of Golem's Gamers. He was really nice as well. There's a theme. Yeah, all the YouTubers were quite high up, it seems.
The YouTubers.
I think it's generous to describe us as YouTubers.
Fair enough. But yeah, he was really nice. Both of the Golem Gamers guys, like, never really had to do any takebacks. They were never like, oh, I've just messed that up, do you mind if I do this? Like, everything they did was, like, precise and quick and really efficient, which was quite cool, to be honest.
Well, maybe they need to be against fucking goblins.
So the final game, playing against Army of Lake Town with Bard, his 2 daughters, and Alfred, and then he's got whatever this lady's called. You know,
not Sigrid. Hilda Bianca.
Hilda, the sassy one. Her, and then Thorin on Goat on his own. Oh, and a captain of Lake Town. So he's got quite a lot of heroes.
Was it Thorin?
Yeah, Thorin Erebor reclaimed on Goat.
Ah, okay, cool.
So really interesting list. I was quite worried about it because all of his guys are very slightly better than mine, but only to the point where they need to be. Yeah. So they're all 1 higher fights. They're all strength 3. Most of them are defense 5. So my axes are pointless. He's got lots of them. I say lots of them. As you can see, he doesn't have as many as I have. This is my whole army, essentially, minus the 3 goblins at the back for the scribe and the goblin mercenaries. For the scenarios, we had command the battlefield, which I think is the table quarter one.
Sure.
We've got fog of war and capture and control. Now, I had to veto first, so I was quite scared about, you know, making the wrong decision because it's the last game. This is probably the calmest game that I felt, weirdly. I'm not really sure why. I think I was just relieved to at least be near the final, like, it felt like a very straightforward game in the end because there wasn't a lot of tactical weirdness like in the previous game where I was really having to make a lot of decisions. This was just a battle line, essentially. I vetoed Fog of War because he would be able to pick a target, and it would be really hard for me to pick a target because he's got so many heroes. He would just probably make Thorin his assassin and just absolutely gun for whoever he wanted, doing free heroic combats every single turn.
Yep.
I asked him immediately after I vetoed it, I was like, was that the right decision? Like, because I actually don't know. And he was like, yeah, you definitely wanted to veto that. So he then vetoed command the battlefield because it's just a numbers game. And that left us with capture and control. We've got a objective on the hill here, 1 back by this house, 1 on the right-hand side by my goblins, and 1 on the left. Deployment was a bit weird because he had to deploy first. He deployed on the left-hand side. Or was it in the middle? I think he deployed in the middle first. I deployed my goblin captain on the right, knowing that I would be able to march with him, because I thought, well, he's not got that many guys and he's not got a large window to try and defend, so he's probably going to put everything on one flank and try and take it one at a time and hope that my goblins take ages to move. We decided this field in the middle was difficult terrain, and I figured, well, if I think he's going to do that, then I need to put the one with march on the end so that I can get around quickly. Every turn that I could have marched with him, I actually ended up forgetting, but that actually helped me win the game because I had more might near the end to move off against Thorin. So fortunately for me, I was forgetful.
200 IQ.
200 IQ plays. So 1 or 2 turns in here, as you can imagine, everything's sort of crashed up. Thorin has blitzed into the middle here. I'm going to take this objective, but we decided that it would be a climb test to get onto this, so it took me a couple turns. My goblins are swinging up. I lost three guys in the first turn of combat. Bard has come forward, dangerously close to the Goblin King and Golem, also I thought anyway. Thorin obviously combating every turn wasn't great, but I pretty much move off every turn against him and managed to win most of them. So I massively mitigated the damage he caused. I've now got the 3 central objectives and my back objective. So it's really mine to lose at this point, but I knew that he would be able to grind me down over time. So the Goblin King was absolutely useless. This guy wearing red, he passed every courage test to charge the king, and I think he won a couple of combats as well. We got Thorin over here, just absolutely owning guys, and my guys very slowly moving around. Some deforestation going on because it was really windy from the wind was like blowing into the room and just knocking them all down. A few goblins coming on. This is quite late in the game now. Thorin's still here in the middle, but near the middle of the game, Thorin had an opportunity to shoot back here towards my goblins, and really there was going to be nothing I could do to stop him. He could then probably go up this side and take this goblin over, or come around the back towards the Goblin King. But because I deployed on my mercenaries back on this house, and brought on, I think, like 3, 4, 5 guys from the back, he decided to turn around to try and prevent the goblins from taking this back objective, and also tried to prevent me crashing into the back of his militia line, because his militia was starting to leak through towards this top objective. I actually failed to pin one of them, who ended up coming up this way and challenging for this objective. Let me just see if there's another picture. Yeah, so you can see this guy just coming over here now. I've got lots of surrounds on some of his guys. I'm now trying desperately to break him. I actually wasn't paying too much attention to the objectives. I was just trying to hold/take every single one of them and not really worry about anything else. My line's getting really thin on the bottom here, but some reinforcement goblins are coming in. Managed to snipe Alfred with a couple of goblins, but he'd already used all his stuff, so he literally wasn't even moving Alfred. He was just standing there. Want to move off against Thorin again, stopping him from doing very much. Failed to kill this guy in the second to last turn, annoyingly. I don't know if I have a picture of the very last turn. Yes, I do. Okay. So at this point, there was like 10 minutes left on the round, and I asked if we had time to play another turn. We agreed that we would play another turn, but I had been broken the previous turn. So now it's my turn to take courage tests. So I call a move off with the only person who has any might left, my Goblin Mercenary. He wins the move off against Thorin, and I proceed to pass his courage test, having to spend a will points. So I get everyone in here to pass their courage test. I charge as many people as I can, including tagging Thorin, and tagging everyone possible. He then charges the Goblin King, which means I actually have to pass courage tests down in the bottom here. I do manage to pass with quite a lot of guys, and I was able to tie up a load of guys, including Bard. However, Bard then charged like the 2 guys that were protecting my objective, combated off them, combated into the last remaining goblin who was standing on the objective, and killed him. So Bard absolutely MVP'd himself onto that objective and took it in the last turn. I did manage to kill this militia in the top who was holding his back objective, so I took that in the last turn. I did manage to retain the objective against Thorin over here because I had just enough models to prevent Thorin from combating in. He combated onto another model, but couldn't get to the model on the objective. Up in the top right here, I lost the combat against this militia, which meant I had to back away an inch. Fortunately, I just backed away horizontally 1 inch, so my base would still be in contact with the objective. So this objective is now neutral. That meant I held his home objective, the middle objective, and my home objective. He held this left objective, and the right objective was neutral. I was broken, and I believe I broke him in the last turn of the game. I'm not sure if I did, but I think the points for this one were basically 1 point for wounding leader, and 1 point for or killing, it doesn't matter, and 1 point for breaking your opponent. So he did break me, but he only got 1 point for it, and I actually put a wound on Bard, so I got a point for that. At the end of the game, I wasn't actually counting who had what objectives, but he knew instantly who had won, and he was like, I think you've won, and I was like, oh my god. So that was the end of the 6th game, and man, it was a lot of fun. My dead pile on the right there, everyone got to kill a shit ton of goblins, unfortunately, apart from the very first game. So hopefully my opponents had fun with it too, and actually we didn't end up playing the extra turn that we had agreed to, because when it came to rolling for priority for that turn, the timer was 0, and I could tell he was annoyed, and that was completely fair enough. And I was like, well, shall I just roll to see if the game would have ended on a 1 or a 2? And I rolled a 2. So the game actually came to its natural conclusion. So he felt relieved by that, you know, he couldn't do any more than what he had done, because the game came to its natural conclusion, and it wasn't a case of the game just needing to take more turns to finish for him to win. Like, the game is just done there. So looking back at the games, I've put all of the units that I had, all the heroes, into a tier list. We all have a good tier list, I know, and this is the Hobby Breakfast Show tier list. I've put everything into categories already. It goes from best to worst, left to right. So at the bottom of solid, I've put the Goblin Captain, the humble Goblin Captain. Great unit, I think, for 2 points of might, and he can take 12 to 18 goblins with him. Absolutely essential, especially for March. You're going to want to have at least one. Fortunately, at 600 points, I can have all the named heroes, a mercenary captain, and the normal captain, and still kind of fit a good number of goblins in. Was crucial, like I said, for marches, for moves, just having the extra might. Even if you still got might at the end of the game, because he's got 1 will as well, that 2 might and 1 will could be critical to pass a courage test and stay on the board. Fortunately, I never had to do that with my captain. My captain was just a solid use of might, essentially. Then we've got Gollum. Gollum and the Scribe kind of perform in a very hit or miss way. I would say Gollum's more sporadic as to when he decides to become useful. Some tournaments he does really well. He'll combo with a king and kill a couple bears, or basically kill anything in the game. But unfortunately for this tournament, he basically did pretty much nothing. He helped kill Eomer in my first game, but really that game was pretty much over at that point anyway. He failed to help the king kill Ratabi for 2 turns in a row. He failed to kill Bard when he comboed with the king against Bard. And I don't think he particularly got any other combinations off. So, unfortunately, I mean, I did use his might, and his courage is useful for staying power, and I did need that at one point. But ultimately, this tournament, he didn't help to combo against anything. The threat of him is always great, but just didn't quite pull it off this tournament. Grinner, couple of clutch moments. He used swap with me. Having the extra 3 might, or the extra 1 might over captain is great. Having strike was great. He struck against the Watcher and won a combat, and kind of drew things out an extra turn against the Watcher. So pretty solid. All of them solid. You know, they were good, but none of them were game winning or even game defining particularly. Then we've got Fantastic, which is all stuff that's just brilliant as Goblin Town. The Mercenaries, just the consistency at which they can perform is fantastic. The D4 really helps out against anything that's strength 3, which is a lot of stuff. And obviously you just need them to be able to outflank. We've got the Humble Goblin Warrior, without which obviously Goblin Town would be nothing. Just having such low point, essentially spear models that can be strength 4 when they need to be is just really, really good. You can just get so many of them and just overwhelm your opponent with attacks. It doesn't matter that you don't have a banner because you're having 4 or 6s on 1s in some cases. Once the ball gets rolling, it's really hard to stop against the Goblin Warriors. You've got the Goblin Mercenary Captain, which of course without him you wouldn't be deploying consistently behind your opponents. For 15 points more than a captain, he's absolutely worth it. The consistency is the key here, and at low points I used to think, you know, Scribe was king, and the reason for that is proportionately you're bringing on a lot of models, and the proportion of your starting force that you can get in additional reinforcements is larger at lower points than at higher points. You know, if you start the game with 30 goblins and you bring on 20, that's insane. If you start the game with 100 goblins and you bring on 20, then that's just okay. If you're bringing on 20 goblins, you're doing fantastically anyway, but you know what I mean. The Goblin Mercenary Captain, though, I would take at low points because he is consistent and you can get them in a lot quicker than having to come in on a board edge. Some games in past tournaments with the Scribe, he's done actually nothing, and I wish that I took another captain with some guys, because sometimes all the action's in the middle and he'll either get unlucky for the first few turns and then stuff will start coming in and it won't make it into combat, or it'll be too late to actually make a difference or whatever. And that's what makes the Mercenary Captain so good. He comes in more or less when you want him, but pretty much all the time where you need him, and that's the key. However, in this tournament, I think the Goblin Scribe outperformed the Mercenary Captain, and that's just because I think I've practiced enough now with Goblin Town that, and hopefully my opponents will agree, that I'm relatively fast with them considering their Goblin Town. I think we got so many turns in pretty much all my games. The Goblin Scribe had a lot of opportunities to bring in extra guys, and I had a lot of time for those extra guys to make it to the middle of the board. And against Ash, it made a big difference. And against Sam, it made a big difference, coming on behind with loads of Goblin Warriors. And just, your opponent wants to kill him so badly. Like Stephen from Any Heroics, he combated with Gilgalad just to kill the Scribe and dismounted his horse just to get to him. And the Scribe had only brought on 2 models. Like, that's how much he was scared of him. To be fair, if I brought on more guys behind Galadriel, he was going to be in even more trouble. But yeah, Scribe's great. Then, of course, the Goblin King. Most of the time, you know, he's pretty whiffy. I don't tend to roll very well with him, but he is the linchpin of the army. He scored a couple nice throws. He dismounted a King of Men. He hit Ratabi, didn't wound her, but did slow her down. And the threat of him is just so heavy on your opponent. He is not going to give your opponent any points for being wounded. You know what? Thinking back, I don't think he ever got wounded once. I don't think, I'm not even sure I ever rolled a fate either. So overall with the list, I'm very happy with how it did, obviously. Absolutely ecstatic that I couldn't stop grinning during the ceremony at the end because I was just so happy. You know, I've played Middle-earth SBG for a long time, so to win a GBHL90 was just incredible. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments. If you've got any suggestions, let me know in terms of list building, or if you've had any particular interesting run-ins with Goblin Town, whether you've been playing them or playing against them. What's the most goblins you've ever seen come in with a scribe?
Do you think the veto format had a significant impact on which list did well overall? I know you said you think it helped you, but do you think it had an impact over like which lists did better?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. It definitely helped my list because Goblin Town is so strong in so many scenarios. Having numbers and mobility will help you win most of the scenarios. Some of the other armies that did really well were Serpent Horde with Mordor Ally, Survivors of the Lake Town with Erebor, Serpent Horde again, Host of the Dragon Emperor, Rivendell and Lothlorien, Army of Lake Town with Erebor, which was not actually this list, it was a different list. Another Army of Lake Town with Lothlorien. A lot of good lists, I'm noticing. But they all seem like mostly all-rounder lists. None of them seem very gimmicky. There were no bears, for example. Okay. I imagine because of when you're picking between 3 scenarios, a lot of them are going to be objective-based, and not having a high model count or even a medium number of models is going to be a detriment. I think 600 points is just really strong for Goblin Town. Any more, and your opponent gets too many tools to deal with your horde, you don't get to do full surrounds, or you ally in the Spider Queen and your breakpoint's much lower, which makes things more difficult. Lower points for Goblin Town is also okay, but it means you're less likely to have the Scribe and Mercenaries, and I think the combination of those is really strong. Or if you do, your front line will be much weaker. So I think points level and all those things were really good.
When was the last time you saw another Goblin Town player at a tourney?
Ardacon. No, that's a lie. It was Cardiff, our doubles in Cardiff. There was one other player who had Goblin Town. And before that, it was Ardacon.
I just don't know why it's so scarce. Like, it just seems like it does a lot of things well. Like, I don't think it's overpowered or anything like that. I don't think that's what it does, but it does seem really good. And like, even your base troops are super strong. Getting inbuilt spears is really nice.
Yeah, inbuilt
I'll
spears.
give you some reasons. One is from the Hobbit movies. 2, it's probably not that interesting to paint.
Yeah, I mean, yes, those are 2 fair reasons. They're just fun to play, in my opinion. Like, they've got enough weirdness and tricks, and that it's entertaining to play. And I think I sort of started to reach the threshold of being able to play them really well. I think it's fair to say that based on my performance in that tournament. But
I think it's fair to say that you're like playing them very well. Yeah,
I think I feel more confident playing them than Isengard now. I've not played Isengard in a while, but
I was about to say, you've probably played more of them than you have Isengard.
Definitely the last year and a half. I've played a lot more Goblin Town.
When was the last time you took Isengard to a tournament?
Ardacon.
Ardacon, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Ardacon was a really long time ago now.
It was about 10 months ago, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I took, obviously took Assault on Helm's Deep for that, and went 4 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss, which is really strong. So, part of me thinks, as an all-rounder list at maybe a bit more than 600, like 650 or 700 points, Ardacon was 750, I think. At that points level, I become, when you can get 2 ballistas and a bomb and plenty of crossbows, that list is really strong.
Are you going to bring Goblin Town to King of the West then?
I don't think I will. I think I'm going to... Because 2 of the scenarios in that one are really bad for me. So one of them is just killing models, which is obviously bad, and the other one is retrieval, where your hero is on the other side of the board. And on that one, like, the Goblin King's just going to do nothing, and I'm not going to have the mobility to reach him. And also, everyone seems to be bringing like fucking Grim Hammers or some insane elite force, because all the good royal models are a good faction, as it were. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Hope you enjoyed seeing each of the games and how we got through the tournaments. So it's goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from OT.
Bye.
And it's goodbye from Onod.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks all for listening. Take care. See you next time.